Angela and Nick from Imagine Eating, and today we're going to show you how to make the Ohana Bread Pudding!
Yes, the Ohana Bread Pudding. We're going to be using the breakfast bread from Ohana that we made in a previous video as the base of our delicious bread pudding.
You guys, I haven't been to Ohana in a while, but oh my god, I still remember the taste of this. It's so delicious, gooey, sweet. What else is it, Nick?
It's definitely sweet. It's also sticky and wonderful.
Yeah, like, it just gives you good vibes, and we're so excited. We have a really good recipe. We're so excited to show it to you guys. Like Nick said, we are using the breakfast bread that we made in a previous video. We're going to link to it. You should see it in the top right-hand corner. Go ahead and check out how to make that because it definitely adds something to this recipe.
Yeah, you're seeing a few frames from that video right here. And using the breakfast bread is critical. The reason why we want to use it is because it is that pineapple and coconut flavor that you've got. You can make this recipe with French bread or something like that, but it just does not... It's just not the same at all.
Correct. So to get started, we're going to make our custard base, our custard-like base. We're going to use 5 eggs, not 5 dozen eggs like Gaston, just 5.
Yeah, 5 eggs. That's going to be kind of the base of our custard that we're going to be making here. This is very similar to a French toast recipe, too.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, we used a very basic one, but if you actually wanted to add more nutmeg and even some rum, if you're feeling frisky...
Yeah, I would definitely consider some add-ons to this particular batter. Now, what we're going to add after we get the eggs in there, we're going to add 3 cups of whole milk. We're just pouring them right onto Mickey's face there.
He doesn't look like he's enjoying it.
No, it's like we're waterboarding him with milk.
I know, it felt bad. It did not feel good.
Now, after you get that milk in there, you're going to want to add a little bit of salt, and then it would not be a Disney recipe without sugar, so you'd add some sugar in there. But we also got some nutmeg going in as well. And we're using the entire nutmeg nut, and we're going to grind out probably about half a teaspoon of nutmeg there.
Yeah. Fresh ground nutmeg is way better than bottled nutmeg. Is that what it's called?
Like the nutmeg that you get in the little jars,
right.
The little spice jars.
Yeah.
And once we get all those ingredients in there, we're going to give this a mix. And again, I think there's a lot of great opportunities here to flavor that batter. You can use a little bit of alcohol in there if you want some rum. You can use a little bit of extract like vanilla or pineapple or coconut extract if you have those. Just ways to kind of pack this up with a little bit more flavor.
But this is a really good starting point.
Absolutely. Alright, so we're going to give this a good whisk. This is the actual whisk speed with which I move. I am very fast.
You're a fast whisker.
I am. I am the whisk master. So there you see our breakfast bread. Now, we're using the Ohana breakfast bread, like I said, because it has that pineapple, it has that coconut. Otherwise, it's just bread pudding, folks. You gotta have that Ohana breakfast bread.
That's true. We also toasted it a little bit before putting it in our batter.
Yeah, just to kind of give it a little bit of crispiness, a little bit of browning that's going to happen as well.
Yeah.
And then all the kids in the pool. Everybody just dives into that bowl, into that batter, and we get everything nice and coated.
Everybody gets to know each other in the batter.
Exactly, yes. So again, like this is like kind of like French toast rules apply here. We're just soaking that bread in the batter. So the bread soaks all that up like a sponge, and then we just take the bread and drop it back into the pan. Now, we're also going to kind of break these up into some more manageable pieces. It's not really totally necessary because it has a really great texture when it's done, but just to kind of get it into the pan a little bit easier, you may want to break it up with your spatula or your spoon, whatever you're using to kind of spoon that into the pan there.
I saw in some videos that people say to soak the bread for like 15 minutes or something, and it really doesn't need that much. We did maybe like less than 5 minutes of soaking.
Yeah, there's not much soaking that we really did here.
And it didn't need it.
No.
Because you'll see at the end that the consistency is perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that we're going to do once we get all of this bread into our pan is to just kind of take that extra liquid that we have and pour it over. So when it comes to the Ohana Bread Pudding, how do you stack that up to other bread puddings that you have? What do you think sets it apart?
So this was the first bread pudding that I'd ever had. I've also had bread pudding from a place here in DC called Puddin'.
Yes.
That's also really, really good. But the thing that I love about the Ohana bread pudding is the tropical flavors that you get from the pineapple and the coconut.
That's what makes it stand out.
Yeah.
So now we're going to put that in an oven at 325 for 1 hour, and we're going to work on our Bananas Foster caramel sauce.
Otherwise known as setting the kitchen on fire.
Well, look, this involves a flambe, and flambe is Spanish for flames, baby. So we're going to take some melted butter and brown sugar and just kind of put it into a pan, and we're going to let that cook over a relatively low flame, bringing together that brown sugar and that butter. Now, the Disney recipes that you'll find online for this involve corn syrup, they involve white sugar. We're not messing around with that. This is just going to be a very pure Bananas Foster caramel sauce. So this is just getting that brown sugar and butter to incorporate, and once it incorporates, it's going to start to kind of bubble up and give you kind of a really nice little caramel that starts to form.
Yeah, you can see it sticking to the pan as it thickens.
Yeah, and once you start to get that bubbling, that's when you're starting to really get that caramel developing. One thing I would say here, have all of your ingredients for the sauce ready at hand, because even though this particular part of it can take a few minutes, once you get to the end steps, that all happens very, very quickly. So have all your ingredients ready so that way you're able to get everything in the pan when it needs to get there.
I've seen a lot of people, they're kind of afraid to cook with sugar.
Yes, because it can be very volatile. It's very easy to mess up, but because we have the butter there acting as kind of a binder for everything, it'll make everything nice and easy to work with. Now, we are going to eventually add our bananas and our rum, and we're going to flambe this thing. So let's talk about flambés really, really quickly. You do not have to flambe. You absolutely don't. If you do decide to flambe, practice basic kitchen safety, have a fire extinguisher at the ready, because you never know when things can go wrong. You can do this one of two ways. If you are going to flambe, you can take a little lighter and kind of stick it in the pan and kind of start the flame that way, or you can very gently tip your pan, if you're using a gas range, just to get it to catch. You're going to see in a second that I did not do this step very well.
Oh, he did it so well. Just not gently.
Alright, so I've put the bananas in. You don't want to put the bananas in too early, otherwise they're going to overcook and get all mushy. But now we're going to go with the rum. We're going to tip the pan. And you're probably wondering how I got here. Yeah, you want to be careful with that flambe, but once it's going, it's going to burn off all that alcohol. Do not tip the pan as much as I did there. That was very stupid. I almost poured the whole thing right onto the burner. But that will get that alcohol to cook out. And then lastly, we're going to add that cream. When you put the cream in, you're going to see that your sugars are going to start to crystallize and seize up a little bit. Don't panic. Just bring it up to a simmer. Those sugars are going to melt down again, and that sauce is going to come around to something nice and sugary and caramely and absolutely delicious.
So one thing I noticed was that you played with the heat a lot. Sometimes you turned it down lower, sometimes you turned it up. What suggestions do you have for people who are not so comfortable with this? What do you know?
Know your range. Know your cooktop, right? If it's something that generates a lot of heat, dial it back. If you see bubbling getting really aggressive, dial the heat back a little bit. You have to kind of have a little bit of technique in how you adjust the heat and just kind of understanding what's going on in that pan in terms of how hot that pan's getting. That flambe that we did is so hot that it caused that big flame. If we were cooking at a much more responsible heat, we wouldn't have had that gigantic fireball come off the stove there.
We also wouldn't have had the fire department show up. Just kidding, that didn't happen.
That did not happen. I have never flambéed to the extent where the fire department has had to show up. Have I gotten close? That's a different conversation.
And again, don't be afraid. This is all fun. As long as you practice safety.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, and the flambe part's not even necessary. So if you're not comfortable enough with your kitchen skills to be able to pull that off, fine, you don't have to.
So our sauce is starting to bubble and get nice and gooey.
Yeah, and this sauce, let me tell you, I just wanted to pour it into a cup and drink it. It is amazing.
Yep.
So when you pull the bread pudding out of the oven, it's going to look a little bit like this. It's been in there for about an hour. We're going to go ahead and kind of make some slices, and we're going to take it and kind of dish it out here. And there you see, it's got a really, really great texture, got great flavor, and now we're going to just top it off with our caramel sauce.
I don't know, I think we need more caramel. What do you think?
I think so. I think so.
I don't think that's enough either. Maybe that's good?
There it is!
Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe for more videos.